Previously on the Two Fish at a Table podcast, a book signed, a lunch eaten, a friend's survival guaranteed for just one day, and a brotherhood torn apart by geography and a plane. What will happen next on Las Vegas Trip 2, The Rise of Rigby?
Same poker time, same poker channel. The Two Fish at the Table poker podcast, that is. I'm one of your hosts, East Coast Sam.
And I'm another host, Legend of Ben One on Poker Stars. And guys, welcome to part two of the discussion about our, 1 week-ish overlap with the poker world during our trip to Las Vegas. Previously, we sort of left off at the conclusion of day 2 ABC in the main event timeline, where Sam flew back home the morning of day 2D, the day that our friend Adam Grosek was scheduled to play his day 2 in the main event. And from here, Sam knows a little bit about what stories I will be detailing him, but a lot that went down he does not know about. So I'm very eager to surprise him and inform you guys of what just happened on that fateful couple of days in Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, just to recap, we were going to see our friend Adam Grosek, who we interviewed on this channel and has previously made it to day 3 a couple times. So he survived, and he's now moving on to day 2. We were able to see him quite a bit during day 1D, which is when he played. Managed to win several pots and ended the day at, I think it was 85,000. So above starting stack, but not super, super great. And then our friend Michael Novinsky, who we had lunch with and interviewed on the podcast as well, ended the day at 94K. Unfortunately, we're not able to watch him on day 1 or day 2, but we were able to chat with him and get some hand breakdowns. And yeah, I mean, we were both very impressed by just how big the main event was. We were able to see a number of top players, including Daniel Negreanu, who Ben got a signature from. So, I was very content with my trip. I had to go back for work reasons. I would have stayed longer, and I'd gladly go back next year or another main event if Adam's playing. But Ben, this is your show, so take it away.
Yeah, so we part ways that morning. You fly back home. We had previously had a joint hotel room, so I made new arrangements for 2 more nights, just conservatively and just in case the worst case scenario happened. So I get set up in my new room. I then walk down to the poker area, not the horseshoe room, the Paris room.
Mm-hmm.
I get there early because I have a few hours to kill before the day 2D action begins. And in that morning, there's 2 events starting up. There was the Lucky Sevens event early on, and then I believe it was day 2 of the PLO bounty tournament, the $1,500 that I knew from the day before that Negreanu was still alive with a big stack heading into day 2. So I figured I'd probably see him at some point. And that's true though. So I'm just sort of sitting in that hallway area outside the Paris room, just to kill time, because I'm trying to scope out where Adam's table for day 2 will be as far as how far or close it is to the rail. So unfortunately, it's kind of in like the worst spot. It's like way off to one side, and it's like 1 or 2 rows from the rail. So I know just to begin with, I'm not going to be able to really be in them and have a line of sight on him for day 2, which is unfortunate. But I also know that day 2 tables break very fast, and that room in particular is going to be the first room for the main event to actually break tables. So he can move to a different table in that room or move to the horseshoe area. So I'm still optimistic that there's a chance that I'll be able to more properly rail him for the day. So while I'm in that hallway area, lots of people are registering for those 2 events I mentioned. I think max late reg for the PLO bounty and also for the Lucky Sevens. And so I'm seeing lots of players. And again, this is a $777 event, so it's not a super high buy-in event. It's on the lower side, really. So really a lot of players can expect to buy in. And so I'm really just sitting down on my laptop watching Negreanu's vlog from the other day since I'm a little bit behind. And all of a sudden, an older gentleman that I just vaguely recognized from TV asked if he can sit on the bench next to me. This is enough for 2 people. And I'm like, I've definitely seen you on TV before. What's your name? He says, I'm James Magner. I got 27th in the main event in 2015. I'm like, oh my God, yes, him. He is a retired doctor. And me being a nurse is kind of funny, the healthcare connection there. So
Mm-hmm.
he tells me about, oh yeah, I was on TV for a little bit. Yeah. I said, oh yeah, how did you know? I was like, I do a podcast. Oh yeah. He then pulls out this piece of paper. It's a slip advertising this sort of mystery poker book. It's it has a little handout. It's kind of funny. And so he kind of says that it's like an adventure book that also has a section about poker, including his run in the main event that year. So like it's a very odd book, but I'm intrigued. So he told me a little bit about the book. Is how I think it's probably the most entertaining poker book out there because it's the only one that has an adventure to it. So I'm like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. And yeah, on the paper it tells me it's an ebook for $5, but also it's the hardcover is pretty inexpensive. So I'd be totally down to buy it at some point. He's
Mm-hmm.
playing in the Lucky Sevens that morning, so he's just kind of chilling on the bench, waiting for the event to start. And I say, "Hey man, can I get your autograph? Because that'd be really cool." And he actually signs the inside flap or first page of my Super System book. So I was really appreciative of that. Thank you, James. That was very cool to have that conversation. And so, literally, as the event is about to start, more folks are gathering outside that room. And to my left, I see Dan Heimiller, who was fresh off of the second place finish, or no, third place finish in the seniors event this year, which I
Mm-hmm.
saw the final table of pretty extensively. So that was pretty cool. And so as he's about to walk into the room to play in the Lucky Sevens, I'm like, oh my God, Dan Heimiller, great job in the seniors event. I thought you played great. This room is very entertaining. You guys really put up a great show. He's like, thank you. I know I probably could have played a little bit better. I probably should have finished in the top two, but I was like, you know what, man, you did a great job. I was really just saying, like, things happen, and third place is it's still a great accomplishment. And he, has had a couple of deep runs um, since the seniors event. So I think got second place in an event like a couple of days ago, actually. So again, I think the Ben conversation blessing is in play here, as it will apply to other players too. So again, just a couple little quick interactions. I had a few players on the older side. This is again pre day 2D even starting. I was just there chilling, whatever. And so I head back to the room because I was just, it was kind of a scouting mode for me really before the
Mm-hmm.
action started. And then I grab a quick lunch. I head back to the Paris area. I see Adam. He's preparing to go to day 2D. I had during that morning also researched his entire day 2D table. So there's a sort of a process I did last time for him too, where I look up the name, look up their tournament winnings, over how many years those winnings came from, their best finish, what games they tend um, to play in, if it's a hold'em or is it a mixture of games. And actually, his day 2 table was pretty stacked with, by the very least, of players with a fairly lengthy list of accomplishments as far as winnings. I
Mm-hmm.
think Adam was by far the least winningest poker player at the table as far as past caches. So I was a little bit nervous for him, but a good number of these players were a little bit on the older side. And a lot of these caches came from going back, 10, 15 years. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot, nothing like, no like top pros. I didn't know any of these names, but nobody that had like multiple bracelets or like, $1 million scores. So again, players that have, fought in the arena, but no one that would be like, head and shoulders, like on guard, fold every time they raise, nothing like that at all. And ironically, one of the guys that was at that table, Diego Diego did something. He got like 40th place or like 30 something place, which is kind of funny because Adam had a player like that in 2021, Tonio Roeder, who made it to the final 40 players. So it's kind of a little parallel to the 2 years ago run he had. So anyway, so I see Adam, I say good luck, get in there. Again, I can't really watch. I tried sneaking in. They locked the doors on that hallway that I was camping out in, so I really couldn't watch. But there was a couple benches in that hallway in the Paris building that I was sort of sticking to, and just sitting there, and you can see all these players walking up and down the hallway in both directions and stuff. And so just sitting there was quite an adventure in of itself. So as level 1 starting, I see Joe Hachem just walking down the hallway, and he's coming down. He's walking towards me, so I have a lot of time to like look over, eye contact, say hi before he's like walking past. I said, Joe, big fan. Best of luck to you. He says, oh, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Are you playing? I'm like, no, my friend's here. I'm rooting for him. Both of you, good luck. And then I ran into him on the next break, and he's like, still here? I'm like, yeah, my friend's still in there. So it's so a little continuity there, little part one and part two of that interaction. That was really cool. And like I mentioned before, the Paris room was the first area on day 2D that would be bricking tables. So every now and then I'd see a tournament director with a line of players holding their chips in a bag, walking over to presumably the horseshoe room where they'd be moving to a new table. And during one of those line excursions, I see Moneymaker. So I just and they're like they kind of stop in the hallway at one point, almost like a teacher like saying, "Everyone line up," and then now let's go. So during that little brief hiatus in the walking, I said, "Moneymaker, good luck, rooting for you, big fan." He says, "Oh, thank you very much." So I had both Hachem and Moneymaker interactions just while I was sitting in the hallway there. It was just really cool.
Very cool.
Anyway, getting to Adam's day 2. So that first level, again, he begins at 85K. And I believe he actually chips down to 60K. So he's actually at exactly a starting stack right as late reg is ended, which was the start of level 7. So it's like a reset, like all the work he did. If he had just not shut up at all, he would have had the exact same number of chips because of blood energy. But anyway, so he's a little bit frustrated, but he's kind of card dead. At one point, he told me that he got coolered out of his mind, but lost the minimum. In this case, he had 8-7 of hearts, made a flush on the river on a non-paired board, and just called a bet on the river, and the guy had a better flush. So he really could have, gone broke there, but he managed to minimize. As it went check on the turn, and it was a relatively small flop bet by Adam. So really, he minimized his losses there, and so I give him props for that, because I could imagine if you're frustrated in card that you want to maximize a flush opportunity, but he didn't go crazy. So again, he was kind of down. He's like, I'm like, Tom, you have a chance there. You still have, you're gonna have 60 big blinds, and so just hang in there. And then during level 7, blinds were 500, 1,000. Adam chips down some more. He's down during that level. He gets moved tables to a new day 2 table that's relatively deep stacked. And so he comes out into the hallway for the 20-minute break between levels. Goes to the bathroom and said, "Ben, I got like 48,000. I'm just not getting any hands. He pulled off a couple bluffs. I think he pulled off 3 bluffs on day 2. 2 of the 3 worked. So really, I mean, he's fighting for every last chip. He's not, getting handed chips. He has to earn them in these bluff situations. Mm-hmm. And then so he heads back in for level 8. Which is the 600, 1,200 blind level. And during this time, I decide, you know what, I'm going to go over to the other room and just watch the featured table, which is now in the main area. And so I get over there, and it's Hellmuth and Rigby at the featured table. I believe I walk over there just before level 8 begins. So just at the end of that break between level 7 and level 8, I head right over there. And as I'm approaching the stage area, down comes Rigby, down the hallway towards me. And I say, "Rigby, you're playing great, man. Good luck. I'm rooting for you. You're playing fantastic." He says, "Oh, thank you, man." We do a quick fist bump. He sits down. I go over to the bleachers in the stands, and I'm watching that table very intently, because again, it's Rigby and Hellmuth at the same table, and you just know that's flush are going to fly. And so for that first like half hour, you can actually see me pretty much on the live stream on that entire tabled broadcast. Like I'm sitting right in the front. I'm like leaning on the pillar on the very inside part of the spectator area, so you can see me. And Rigby is just absolutely dominating the table and then about 20 minutes into that level, I see Rigby and Hellmuth involved in a big hand together. The flop comes like ace 10-9. They both see the turns a deuce. Rigby overbets the pot on the turn. Hellmuth shoves, and all of a sudden the cards are on their back. Hellmuth has 2 pair 10s and 9s, and Rigby has 2 pair aces and 10s. And just like that, Hellmuth's gone. I'm like literally right there watching this happen. I can't believe what I'm seeing. And then at one point, Hellmuth gets up, shakes everyone's hands, and then the very last shot of Hellmuth and Rigby, I'm like right in between them in the shot. So you can see that they're both right here, and I'm like right here. And that was just absolutely incredible, that moment. And so I'm so engrossed in this action. And then literally the next half hour after Hellmuth busts, Rigby wins like 3 or 4 just huge pots right afterwards. His rail is getting all rowdy and drunk. And I'm like, just like, what the heck is happening over here? And I hadn't checked my laptop or my phone for a while for any Adam text messages. So I go to sit down and check my messages. And all of a sudden I hear Adam text me, "Oh, Ben, where are you?" I scroll up. He says, "I busted." So I missed. I was like, those texts were like a good like 20 minutes old. So during that time, I was just so engrossed in the Rigby Hellmuth action. Adam had busted, and then he ended up showing me a photo of the run out that he busted on. And as it turned out, so Adam had chipped down about 43,000 chips. He had 2 queens. There was a raise, a call of that raise. Adam shoves over. Jacks end up calling when Hellmuth has queens. Hellmuth flops a set of queens. Adam flops a set of queens, and of course his opponent rippers a straight to bust Adam in a pot that would have been close to about 100,000 chips probably. And so Adam would have been in pretty good shape at that point. So unfortunately, Adam had a bit of a regression in his lasting in the main event. He had made 3 straight day 3s, and unfortunately eliminated in the middle of almost halfway into day 2 in this main event. So I was let down. I let you know and everybody else home know how that went down. Again, it's a very sick run out. I mean, Adam has in his 4 plays in the main event has never had an all-in that was so heavily skewed in his favor go against him. Usually when he was all in, it was a flip, or it was like 70-30, but he had outs. It was just so this is the first time really that the variance went against him.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame hearing about that. You told me that, and I was just like, it's just so sick. And that just keeps happening. That there are these big hands, and this guy flops a set, and then all of a sudden Rivers, Rivers straight. It's just It's happened. It happened to Rigby. It's happened to everybody. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. And so Adam, he still had the itch to play more poker, so he decided to jump into the 2,500 bounty at a different casino.
Okay.
So that would set the tone for the next day. But something else I wanted to make note of was on that day 2D, while I was in the hallway a couple times, because they have multiple tournaments running.
Right.
They try to space it so that the breaks never overlap, so that the bathrooms don't get destroyed or whatever. So during, I think it was level 7 of level 2 of day 2. At one point, I seen Negrano with his camera out, like recording one of his vlogs, like talking about a PLO bounty hand. So that was pretty cool. And I would see him a couple times, sort of went up and down. And I already had my moment with him, so I didn't feel the need to engage him in any conversation. I felt like I got my moment. I'm gonna let him do his thing. And in his vlogs, he has kind of shown a propensity of being like, "I'm on break, man. Please let me do my thing. Okay, I'll talk to you later." Like I didn't want to be that guy. That was my worst nightmare. So, but again, just in Negrano in his doing his thing with his camera for the vlog was pretty cool too, out of context there. So pretty cool. For the rest of that day 2D, I would watch a little bit more of the Rigby action, and then I would also just sort of decompress in the room because I didn't know I knew I had one more day left on my trip for day 3, since I wasn't going to obviously re-extend my hotel room any longer. So I didn't really know what to expect for the next day. My plan was I wanted to go watch the action on day 3, watch the bubble burst, watch whatever I could do, and then get that last sort of inhalation of the main event before I went home. So the next day, day 3, I get a text from Adam saying, "Oh, Ben, I'm going to play at the Wynn for another tournament. Why don't you come watch me?" So I took a cab over to the hotel, to that casino, and Adam is playing in a satellite tournament for the WPT main event at the Wynn. So it's an $1,100 buy-in tournament. Top 10% get an entry into the 10,500 everyone for one drop main event WPT event at the Wynn. So Adam is just started as I actually arrived to the Wynn, and I looked around the room, see anyone else I recognize, and I saw Michael Dentale playing, who we know from Poker Night in America or from the main event in 2012. So that was kind of cool. And then I also see couple other players playing. Will Kassouf jumps in and buys in twice into the satellite. I just watch his table just because Adam is a couple rows over. I think one or two tables out, so I can't watch him as much as I like to. So Kassouf's table is right next to the not the rail, but like there's just a carpet that's kind of a walk-through area. There's no like bars or anything. I can just watch right there. But I keep a healthy distance watching. So Kassouf sits down, starts talking, and within two hands goes lose the hand, bust all in tens against ace queen. He runs over. I watched this entire thing. I didn't say anything to him after a bust. I don't even want to bother anybody, so I didn't feel the need to talk to him. He sits back down with a fresh stack, calls off all in two sevens against two tens. So again, he just can't get a break there. Busts again, walks away. I assume whatever. Adam's doing okay at his table. He told me the starting still was 20,000 chips with 25-minute levels, and he gets up to 35,000 relatively quickly. So again, that's a pretty good growth to start off with in the first level or two. As this is happening, I'm just standing there watching the action from where I'm standing. Hossein Ensan walks over, and I say, "Oh, Ensan, big fan. Best of luck to you. I think you're a great player." He says, "Oh, thank you very much. Are you playing, or are you just a fan?" I'm like, "I'm just a fan." And he's like, "Oh, well, thank you very much for being a fan." Gives me a fist bump and walks away. I'm just like over the moon. Oh my God, Ensan, so cool. And about 5 minutes later, I see Joe Mckeehen walking over. I'm about to say, "Oh," I say, "Mckeehen, big fan." He just says, "Don't care." Keeps walking. Just the rudest, most dismissive I've ever seen. I was originally going to actually tell you, since I met 2 main event champions, one was the nicest guy ever, one was the rudest guy ever. I was going to tell you the names and have you guess who was who, but I figured it'd be too obvious if I did that. So Mckeehen, total jerk. I felt like shit when he did that to me. Like I was like, dude, I just said good luck. I wasn't asking for a fist bump or for anything. I just said good luck. He's like, he's literally couldn't say, okay, thank you, I got it, or whatever. He could just nodded or something. No, just totally rude. I couldn't believe it. I'm no longer a fan of Mckeehen anymore. Just from that, it's how you behave in the small moments in life that I think define this person. And so, just again comparing Ensan and Mckeehen there, I mean, I think we just know who's a nice person in life.
So he said, "Don't care." He actually said that out loud.
Yeah, don't care. I mean, I heard like didn't he just like walking, don't care. Like he turned his head like 10 degrees towards me, and then just kept walking towards wherever. Just so rude.
So you said good luck. He said don't care.
I said Mckeehen, big fan, good luck. He's like, don't care. Like
oh, okay.
as I'm finishing the word luck, I wasn't like asking for an autograph or wasn't asking for a photo. I was just like,
yeah, I get it.
I was a good 6 feet away from him. I was just walking towards / past me, just so rude. So Joe, if you want to apologize, if you say this somehow and the word gets to you want to apologize, I'll accept it. But I think you were a total jerk there. And I'm not saying all main event champions have to like give a moment to each fan, but just don't be such a jerk about it. That's what.
Yeah, I mean, you said hi to Kui Win when he walked by us when we were together, and he just said thank you and kept going. That's all you need to do. Is just say thanks
or nod if you're if you're like if you can't talk like you're mid brain thought, you can't speak, just nod or whatever, or say nothing. Or
just wave, honestly, whatever. Just say nothing. Yeah, that's a weird one.
Not great, but again, not as rude as don't care. I mean,
yeah, I don't think that's acceptable to say don't care.
Yeah, so pretty rude. Other than that, so when I'm watching Adam, I have on just like a t-shirt from my old job. It has my old hospital on it, and then I'm wearing some scrub pants from work. Just I brought to Vegas to have as a if I lost it, no big deal. And so I'm getting a little bit of attention from the guy at the very far edge of the table, who is the first table from where I'm standing, which is one table over from where Adam's playing. And so the guy's like, so by now he's gotten the sense that I'm just watching my friend Adam, because Adam comes over during the first break, says I'm doing okay, whatever. So he knows I'm just kind of watching. So he turns to me and he's like, "Hey man, you're gonna play? Like I'll take 30% of your action." I was like, "I appreciate it, man, but I can't play. I'm flying home tomorrow." He's like, "Oh yeah, really? Come on." I'm like, "No, I'm not good enough, and also I'm flying tomorrow. It's true. It's my last day of my trip, so I couldn't play until it anyway." So it's kind of funny. He's like, "Aren't you a doctor? Can't you play?" I'm like, "No, I'm never nurse. It's like the same thing. You can afford it." Like, I appreciate it, man, but I'm not playing. So it's kind of funny to be, interacted with by someone I didn't know. And just after that interaction with that player, Chandler C. Kuhn walks over and talks to the guy, like I guess they're friends or whatever. So like, "Oh my God, it's Chan Kuhn. That's so cool. The guy that won the heads of championship." I didn't say anything to him, but I was just like taken aback by. it's funny. You think that the poker world is in this Paris, Las Vegas bubble, and you don't realize that there's other casinos, other tournaments going on that are just as important to these players, even though a bracelet's a bracelet. You don't really expect to think, oh yeah, at the same time as the main event's going on, you have these other events happening too. So it did certainly make me think, maybe I had the wrong perspective on the poker scene in Vegas during the main event week.
Mhm.
So this Adam unfortunately runs an unsuccessful bluff with I forgot the hand exactly, but he loses like 2/3 of his chips just before the break number 2. And so at this point, I know the writing's on the wall here. The blinds are getting really big. Adam ends up busting a little bit later, so he's out of the satellites. But as it turns out, his backer put him in for the main event for the next day anyway. So it wasn't like it was a do or die situation for him. So Adam, I think going to put down the next day. He ends up busting, but that was after I left Vegas. So then now I decided, Adam, we part ways. We have a quick lunch together. I say, good luck tomorrow. I'm going to go watch the main event, the bubble and stuff, and I'm going home the next day. So we part ways there. I get back to the hotel. I relax for a little bit, and then I'm following along of how many players are left, because even though it's the biggest main event ever, you never quite know if that means that the bubble will actually be reached in day 3. Will they extend day 3? Will they go to day 4? I was under the impression, much like the last couple of years, end of day 3, bubble burst. No matter what, they'll play a little bit longer. So not worry. So I head down to the area and just sort of do my usual walking around, watching the main table, watching the other table. Doug Polk was at the main TV table along with a few other players that I didn't really know, but a few that I'd seen here and there in later days in the main event after they made the money. And so I'm actually watching the screen, the tournament screen, where it updates how many players are left. There's every like 9 bust outs at the number, so it's getting lower and lower and lower, and it's very exciting to watch this. So I kind of alternate between watching the main TV table and going to that big poker room in the horseshoe area, just sort of surveying the tables. And I see ironically, a lot of the same players that I had seen on that day 3 2 years prior. So guys like Josephine, Michael Ruan. I see Rigby at the same table as Richard Seymour, who, again, as us being, previously big football fans of the Patriots, seeing us, Richard Seymour in there was pretty cool. And Rigby is continuing just to dominate that table. So that's pretty awesome. And again, at this point, about 1,500 and 7 players are going to cash or something like that, just over 1,500. And so as we're at this 1,700 player left mark, it's really getting down to the nitty gritty. So I see players like Patrick Antonius and Somerville at the same table, for example. I see just so many players that I'm happy to root for. And so I'll kind of pick a table, watch for 10 minutes, move on to another one, just to kind of mix things up, because we're getting so close to the bubble there. At one point, we're getting really close now. We're down to 1550, so we're down to 2-digit number of players left. I watched this one guy go all in of aces with 70,000 chips against 2 queens, river queen, just unbelievable stuff happening.
Yeah.
I just can't believe that. Just boom, it happens in 2 seconds and they're gone. That close to the money. It's just so sick. And as this is happening, the number of players just keeps shrinking and shrinking. And then, but we're also very much approaching the end of level 5 of day 3. So really, it's kind of are they gonna reach the bubble? They're not going to reach the bubble tonight. I just assumed they would, maybe have an extra half hour or whatever to play. When all of a sudden, with about 20 minutes to go in the level, we hear on the upgrades, "Okay, guys, we're gonna play about 5 more hands, and then we're gonna back up for the night." And the whole room engaged in just the loudest boos I have ever heard in my life. And it was unbelievable, because they're literally 15 players away from the money, and they're gonna just all of a sudden bag up and come back the next day. And I can imagine if I was a player, I'd be so pissed. Especially if I was a short stack, you just want to know if you're going to get in or not. And that was crazy. And they kicked the spectators out relatively early to accommodate for both the bagging and for the, if in case hand-to-hand gets reached in those last few hands. By the end of day 3, I think they were 9 out of the money or something, less than 10 away. And I was just I felt robbed. The whole point was I wanted to see the bubble burst. I wanted to be part of that energy and that fun. And naturally, of course, I come up just short in being able to actually see it. My flight is noon the next day, so literally that's when the action starts. So there's no way I could even stick around and watch the start of the day. So I felt a little bit robbed. All the players do too. And so I unfortunately go to bed, get to my flight the next day, go home, and I end up having to watch the money bubble action on the stream when I get home. So that was the sort of bittersweet ending to my Vegas trip. I saw a lot of really fun, players playing, obviously seeing Rigby a little bit more on day 3 and Seymour squaring off. And Rigby just pulled off a huge bluff at one point with a deuce in his hand. They showed after the guy folded. That was insane to watch live, just, on the rail there. But that was my trip, Sam. My solo ranting here is over. You can now kick in with your thoughts on anything you might have seen on the stream running day 3, day 4. But that was it.
Yeah, I mean, at least with the money bubble bursting, a lot of names that we both cared about made the money. Boston Rob Mariano from Survivor actually manages to make the money. He doesn't go very deep, but still manages to cash.
Yes.
A bunch of other people. Richard Seymour obviously went on a deep run. Rigby went on a deep run. Nate Silver of 538 goes on a deep run. So we had a lot of big names at least make the money in this big main event. Jamie Gold cashed. A bunch of main event champions actually cashed. Unfortunately, they all busted. But yeah, I mean, that was just sort of one of the running themes I noticed at this main event of just how many big names were able to make it into the money, and then they just weren't able to finish up on the day. So I mean, we have 15 players left. I don't know when action is supposed to begin, but yeah, there's only really Alec Torelli and Toby Lewis are really the only 2 names I recognize here. Though I mean, having watched the streams, all these guys seem really likable. All these guys seem really nice. It's almost like at some points that you're feeling like you're watching like a 5-10 home game or something instead of, a main event championship. The little breathing exercise that they did at the table yesterday, I thought was really, really sweet. There's a lot of really nice moments. So again, there's nobody I'm really rooting for at this point. Nobody really stands out beside, Lewis and Torelli in terms of their like play, in terms of like them being a strong player. Yachman seems pretty competent to me. Payne just kind of seems like he's an amateur who, managed to get a bunch of chips and he's sort of still there, but still seems to be fine. Same with Predic, the Ukrainian. He also seems to be a decent enough player. So again, I'm comfortable with any of these guys winning. Hopefully it'll just be a fun final table.
Well, even before I discuss the final 15, I also want to mention just how much of this is Rigby is the main character of this main event, even though he only lasted till the final 120 or so, busting on day 6. He was just so much fun to watch on days 4 and 5. I mean, he had just the biggest roller coaster of chip stacks, up and down, playing aggressive bluffs, hitting lucky cards, busting players. I think 2 of the biggest hands of this main event has to include the busting of Chance Kornuth, where Rigby aces at the button. Chance Kornuth has ace king suited in the big blind. Both players with over 100 big blinds. I think it was the 15K, 30K level or something. Chance had over 3 million. Chance Kornuth unable to get away from the hand when Rigby shoves all in. I don't know. I think it's a fold personally, but that's just me. There was a pretty crazy hand where Vampin bluffs 8-7 high into Toby Lewis, who has the nut flush on a paired board, which is a tough spot, but I think I probably would have called actually. That's just me though. Toby Lewis again. You mentioned Toby Lewis and Alec Torelli. I know them from just other YouTube hands. Toby Lewis, the beneficiary of quads over quads against Andrew Roble 15 years ago in a UK stream, and Alec Torelli, who was involved in a controversial hand, at least by Doug Polk standards, where he had 10K in chips hidden from Alex Wolf in a cash game pot. I mean, Torelli, I don't know him besides that. Toby, I don't know him besides that. I guess I'll root for them. I mean, all my horses on day 6 are knocked out. Both ladies busted, Rigby busted. Guys I just know from past main events all busted. Andre Patachuk, gone for example, and he was never on the main table. I felt just in 2011 when he was sort of never really shown, but he always had chips. We never got to see him in action. I felt kind of robbed of that ultimately. And again, the 15 players, I'm happy for whoever wins. Personally, no one's a villain. No one's been rude. Again, I feel a bit more connected to this final 15 than last year's equivalent because I was able to watch the streams more regularly compared to last year. So that definitely helps. But again, with 15 left, it could be a relatively short day 8. Again, that's kind of the virtue of the change in the schedule. The bust outs were at a pretty steady clip. I mean, Maurice Hawkins, I guess I heard from kind of as a half villain, half hero kind of guy. He busted relatively in the middle of day 7 yesterday. So again, I'm not. Oh, and there was the guy Pham, who was down to less than 1 big blind at one point and is now in last place, but still in there with, you know, like 10 big blind or something like that. So still, you know, enough to maybe spin it up. But we'll have to see. Again, I've been pretty happy with the streams for the most part, with the exception of just some of the commentary. There were like maybe like 3 or 4 times where they just got the hands mixed up from that table 3 setup where they didn't know whose cards were whose, which again illustrates why you just need to have the cards on the screen so that it's just easier to follow the action better when you have literally no graphics to go for that table. And then my other criticism was there was this new guy in the booth for like days like 3, 4, 5 or whatever. I don't know his name, but he just didn't seem to be very energetic or dynamic in the booth. And also my other complaint was the overusage of the word showered. Like someone gets knocked out, they say, "Oh, he's showered." Like I don't even know what that means. Like showered of like he's going home, he has to shower, or like showered of like money because he busted because he cashed, or showered because of
like hit the showers, you know, just sort of like a sports term, I guess.
Wasn't a fan of that term. It was overly used.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the streams, everything's been fine. I've been mainly watching the earlier stuff because I'm an early to bed, early to rise guy, so I haven't been watching too much of the late stuff. Seems like everybody on the poker subreddit really loves Nick Schulman and Ali Najad. Unfortunately, I just haven't seen too much of them to comment. Yeah, I mean, I like the commentary. Again, I think I mentioned this last time. Maria Ho's very good commentator. I'm a big fan of the Lon and Norm duo. You know, the Jeff Platt curse seems to be the other thing that's really been trending, which, you know, I don't know. I mean, maybe there's something to it. You know, it hasn't worked for absolutely everybody has been cursed, but quite a few people have. So, I mean, maybe it's just something as simple as you stand up and do an interview, you just get distracted and you're not quite in the right headspace and you make a mistake. But, or maybe Jeff Platt's a sorcerer. We don't know. But
well, I mean, if the Madden curse can exist, then why can't Jeff Platt curse exist, right? I mean, especially since we assume that every time Jeff Platt interviews somebody, they use it. But it's not impossible that maybe they like, because it's on a half-hour delay, they can like, you know, we'll show this one because he busts, and then we'll show this one because he doesn't bust, or I don't know. We don't know how much editing liberty they really have with the live stream, but it'd be funny if there was some artificialness to it too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess the other thing to comment on is just the pay structure. So we have 12.1 million up top with 6.5 million in second place. So it's a $5.6 million jump between first and second place, which is interesting to say the least. They clearly wanted to have this be, I get it, biggest main event, biggest cash of all time. I get it. But $5.6 million, it's a little much there.
I mean, so it was last year, or for Ensan's year, it was like 10 million for first, 6 million for second. So that's a $4 million difference. You have to wonder if maybe there'll be some sort of deal struck between first and second place if they're at all comparable in chip stacks, just because that's a lot of money. And I mean, it's a lot of money either way. So it's kind of like, again, you're the unhappiest 6.5 million millionaire in the world when you win second place in the main event. But it's definitely something worth noting. Something else I kind of thought was kind of funny was on day 4, the first half of day 4 in the stream, we had kind of a deja vu of 2021 where we had Brandt, Chidwick, and Moneymaker all in the TV tables. I was like, am I watching the wrong stream here? Or is this the same? And it's funny, they all kind of busted the same part of the tournament that did 2 years ago. So that was all the more deja vu like for me watching that action.
Yeah, it was kind of fun.
But besides that, I don't really have like a prediction for who I think will win the whole thing. Obviously, it would be lazy to pick just the one currently in the chip lead. But it really comes down to, you know, with only 2 tables left, we'll get a much deeper look into all 15 players' play styles. And again, when you have like 3 or 4 or 5 tables left and they're cutting around and players being swapped around, it's a little bit hard to sort of really lock into one person's play style, especially when their chip stack dictates how much they can play. But I tend to usually root for the underdog, in this case, the bottom stack. So I will keep a mental tally of how many of the top 9 currently make the top 9, you know, that whole thing that we love to do for those old main events. So that'll be my main source of interest, I guess, as far as who to root for, who to root against.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to look up the betting odds to see if there's any betting odds on the players who are left. I can't really find anything. I imagine Toby Lewis is the favorite just because he's an experienced player. He's won, I think it was an EPT event previously. He's got 63 big blinds, 50 million in chips. So he can definitely, he'll definitely make it to the final table, assuming he doesn't get coolered or something. As I mentioned, I like Yachman. He seems like he has a good head on him. He's won a bracelet before. Predict seems like he's pretty good. All these players, nobody seems to be any real slouches. Torelli is, I think, 13th right now on the chip count. I'd have to look this up right now. Yeah, he's 13th with 14 million. So, he still has a playable stack, but he's gotta get it in good, and he's gotta maneuver things up. And then Kong Pham, who's the short stack, is at 8.7 million. By contrast, the chip leader's 108 million. So he's got a lot of work to do, but again, one double up and you're back in it, right? And you're already in 11th place if you get one double up. So
you mentioned the chip leader, and that's a good point I wanted to bring up, was that when they kept cutting to like the top 3 chip counts, it just kept seeming like last year that it was like 20 million more than like the last time they had shown it, and we didn't really get to see too many players chip up besides Yachman. Everybody else was at one point in the chip lead. We didn't really see them accumulate those chips, so I kind of felt robbed. Like, he's a chip leader, really? Like, I didn't even get that sense at all. So we'll see how that. Obviously, they have 2 tables left. That'll be much easier to track when they can cut back and forth between the 2 tables pretty easily. And I totally forgot. So there was one more point I want to talk about: the money bubble. This year there were 3 bubblers.
Right. Yeah.
One of them was actually Stephanie Wang, who was Adam's day 1 tablemate neighbor.
Oh yeah.
So on his direct right, she was one of the 3, and so because they had 3 bubble boys or bubble girls with one on the bubble, 2 of the 3 would actually accumulate money as prize money as being the min cash winners, and 1 would not. So they did a little like 1 versus 1 versus 1 little hand thing, and so she was fortunate enough to be one of the lucky 2 to win the $15,000 as a min cash. So that was pretty cool, and I was like, I couldn't believe it. Like, oh my god, not only did she survive, but she's actually this one right here. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Yeah.
And besides that, again, I'm still pretty happy with my main event. Like, I felt engaged the whole way, and Rigby was a big part of that, having the same person at the picture table. I was tired of it in 2015 of Negreanu, but this time around, because it's Rigby and he's so entertaining to watch, and all the jokes about diapers and sponsors and whatnot from the booth was kind of funny too. So I would have liked it if he could have lasted a little bit longer. He had like 7 million chips at his peak, and then kind of just chipped down it for that last sort of end of his stay in the tournament. Ace King against Ace Queen, brutal. Same thing for Luther, by the way. She busted with the same run out as pretty brutal for Ace King. Pretty unlucky in this tournament this year. Anyway, so overall, I'm pretty happy. Obviously, we're not quite finished with the main event. There's still today, and then the 2-part final table to go. Luckily, the day off for the stream and for the action, I'm actually working, so I don't miss that on my schedule. So I'm excited to see what happens next today. Obviously, I think that a bit of a late start today. They're starting at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the stream instead of 4. So I guess because they think it'll end early, so they want to have it not end too early in the night, so which is whatever. I'm excited for it, Sam. Anything else you want to conclude with here before we sign off?
Yeah, so it starts at 2 p.m. local time, so it'd be 5 here. So it's going to start in about 30 minutes from now.
Well, the stream starts at 6.
Oh, yeah. So go check WSOP.com. Yeah, I mean, good luck for the 15 people who are left. I'm, just hope that there'll be an exciting final table. I always like exciting, final table. Something like 2014 where, Martin Jacobson's got 8 big blinds and he manages to win. That'd be kind of cool to see. Yeah, I mean, this was a really fun main event to watch. Like I said, I'm more than happy to go back next year or another year and watch the main event. Hopefully I'd like to see the bubble burst. I would definitely like to see that on day 3. So Adam, just be careful with queens. Yeah, I mean, very exciting main event. This was a record setting year. And we also should mention the player of the person who's added to the Hall of Fame, and that's Brian Rast for winning his 6th bracelet. Congratulations to him. Definitely a worthy guy to make it in. In terms of the player of the year race, I guess it's still unsettled, right?
There's enough events going on right now that it's still anyone's game in theory.
Yeah.
But it's funny, almost as if to be like a take that to Brian Rast. Josh Aryeh pulled off his 2nd bracelet of this year.
Yeah.
I think there was like the 25K horse beating Dan Heimiller. So
Mhm.
by virtue of that, he's pretty much saying like, you better put me in next year or else there'll be consequences here. And I honestly, I think he does earn it. He's been playing at just another level. I feel like him, Livingston, and a couple other players the last couple of years have really just this decade in particular been just making such consistent results here that it'd be really hard to keep any of them out at some point in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, REA will make it in. I think there's no denying that. Again, I think everybody who's nominated this year is going to make it at some point. But REA definitely, like within the next couple of years, he's going to get in.
Absolutely. But from there, yeah, we're so close to crowning a new main event champion. Espen Jorstad definitely has been, I think, living up to the title of defending champion this year with his results too. So I'm very excited to see who among our final 15 will be joining the ranks of the past champions. And again, with guys like Hachem, Moneymaker, and Raymer, they're still putting up results too. I mean, Raymer and Hachem and Moneymaker went out consecutively 403rd and 402nd, which is pretty crazy if you think about that. And Moneymaker has his fourth straight cash in the main events. So again, he's really, for all these top pros like Hellmuth and Rigby who haven't cashed in the main event in almost a decade. I mean, I don't understand what their excuses were when guys like Chris can do it 4 years in a row. So it kind of baffles me sometimes.
Absolutely, yeah.
But anyway, guys, that's about it from now. We have some more content coming your way this week for our podcast. I think Sam will upload his filming of Hellmuth's entrance to the main event on day 1D. So expect that coming soon. And as always, guys, enjoy your poker, enjoy your TV, and enjoy your poker on TV.
Unless you're Joe Mckeehen.
Good point. Bye, guys.